We are taking to the high seas where SailGP's fan-owned racing team is officially underway. They competed this past weekend in San Francisco. The team has 1,950 fan owners who form a DAO. These owners make decisions on everything from the team to approving brand deals. The Sailing League, which is backed by billionaire Larry Ellison, is the first global league to embrace DAOs. Joining us now to discuss is David Palmer, founder of the fan-owned sailing team. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning to you too. All right, let's start off by telling us how the race went on the weekend and how the DAO is involved in the day-to-day.
Well, thanks so much. We had a great finale actually in San Francisco this past weekend. The Sail-owned team has not yet formed. We will actually be competing in season 4. Which starts in June in Chicago. But the league had its final events in San Francisco over the weekend. It was fantastic sailing. The Australians won actually for the 3rd year in a row. They completed 3-peat, but it was a very dynamic finish, barely edging out the team from New Zealand, and Great Britain actually put a great performance on in the final as well. There were 9 boats this past season competing. We hope to be the 10th on the water in season 4.
Oh, right. Now, I'm so curious, how do you coordinate almost 2,000 people to approve and make decisions around this team?
So our structure is a tokenized LLC. So the owners come in a LLC, which actually owns the team, and we tokenize those LLC interests so that each owner has a equity token, and we wrap that with a decentralized autonomous organization, and the DAO is the governance structure for that organization. So there's a couple things that DAO does. First, it elects a manager, and the manager is there to function as kind of the day-to-day operated entity to make sure that bills are being paid and contracts are being executed and the team is being put on the water and a high-performance organization is being assembled. But the DAO has complete governance over that manager, meaning that the manager is elected and every 2 years is subject to either being reinstated or thrown out for a new manager. They approve the annual budget, and obviously, as you know, the annual budget really governs the finances of the team and the direction of the team, whether it will be reinvested in a particular area, executing a cash distribution and things like that. And then from a governance standpoint, we allow that DAO to actually have community engagement. So they'll be naming the team, they'll be making sure that the community aspects of the colors and how we represent our region, Bermuda and the Caribbean, is done and reflective of the community desire. And the community can also put forth proposals during the course of the season. They have absolute right of any contract above $500,000 has to be approved actually by the community. So if we want to have a commercial relationship with a particular brand, and that relationship is over $500,000 a year, our community has to prove that. Same for any financial transaction that's over $500,000. So we give the governance to the community. There's voting mechanisms, and the more tokens that you own, the more power you have. However, we've capped token owners to have no more than 40 tokens or $200,000 investment. Our minimum token is a $5,000 investment. So we're trying to really make sure there's great diversity in ownership across the world here, and make sure that people do have a voice in how we actually govern. So the governance rights function like a lot of our other DAOs. We have ability to have proposals, very transparent with the way voting works. We're using NEAR as our protocol to build and to maintain our DAO infrastructure, and our testnet where we've conducted our voting has been very, very efficient. We're really excited about bringing this type of technology and this type of community management to the world of sailing.
So what's interesting about this is that this seems like a model that could be applied to various other sports around the world. But it does beg the question that DAOs are kind of a futuristic concept. Sailing is less futuristic. It's kind of a little bit more old school. The two don't normally go together in most people's minds, right? So how did sort of sailing become this place for this really kind of like ambitious futuristic experiment? Was it just like someone who was involved in sailing met somebody from near and it came about that way? Or is there a reason specifically that sailing is being used as like a pilot for this kind of really new initiative?
Well, I agree with that. Sailing in itself has a tremendous history. SailGP is actually an entire tech forward-leaning organization. When Larry Ellison designed it and put it together, it's the highest tech boats that are on the water right now. They're all foiling catamarans capable of reaching speeds north of 60 miles an hour. Matter of fact, in a race in San Tropez this past year, the entire fleet was north of 62 miles an hour in the water. Each boat actually is an extraordinary tech platform. There's 10 miles, excuse me, of fiber optic cable on each boat, 30,000 sensors. There's 10 million lines of data generated per second that the fleet is on the water, 48 billion lines of data per fleet race. And all that data is actually on an open platform for every team, so that data is being collected so the teams can analyze what's happening with their boat on the water and also what's happening on the other boats on the water. So there's a huge amount of data that's available for every team to be able to analyze their performance, other teams' performance, to rise the level of competition across the fleet. So it was designed from day one as a tech-forward sport, and most importantly, an open data sport. So if you think about Formula One, for example, which is another very high-tech oriented sport, those are closed data systems. So Ferrari doesn't share its information with Red Bull Racing or Oracle Red Bull Racing in this case. Actually, any type of data breach would be considered an extraordinary event. In our case, we're going to be able to share our data with our 1,950 owner community. We hope that community actually helps us from an analytical standpoint, figure out different ways for us to visualize that data and help perform help improve the performance of the team. So this is actually a sport designed to be very friendly to the tech community, designed from day one, obviously by a tech entrepreneur and one of the largest investors in tech forward management, to be very open. And so when they designed the league and took in Near as a corporate sponsor, they realized that there was a really interesting opportunity to marry Web3 protocols with fandom, with access to the sport, not only the data of the sport, but the entire analog experience of the sport, community management through a DAO, and access to digital experiences is very efficient using Web3. I came from the community management business in the travel and leisure industry. We had 200,000 people that were involved in travel program, and it costs about $50 million to build the IT system to manage that community. Here, we've spent around $3 million to stand up the tech platform and the legal platform underpinning our efforts. So it's a huge cost advantage.
Have any other leagues or teams reached out to learn from what you're doing and implement DAOs for themselves?
Absolutely. Well, you can see if you go to our FanVest.io site, we clearly have ambition that will expand this beyond sailing. We have other sailing teams that have approached us, and I think you'll see us actually involved in a few of the sailing platforms and teams that are out there. But more importantly, we designed this to be able to be exported across many other sports leagues and teams, and I think you'll see the NBA is kind of at the forefront of thinking about this right now. A year ago, they changed their participation agreement to allow up to 20% of a team to be owned by private equity, and private equity, in effect, is a fractionalized ownership structure between a GP and an LP. If you look at what we're doing, we're in effect fractionalizing our efforts as well by tokenizing LLC interest. We're fractionalizing that, and we're using the DAO to manage that fractionalized community. So I think you'll see next minority interests in NBA teams evolve, as well as majority interests in other sports leagues that are open to a majority interest control.
David, thank you very much for joining us this morning. That was David Palmer, founder of fan-owned Sail Team.